Hello, hello, hello. We are going to start this day out. We're going to be talking about a topic today that is super near and dear to my heart, obviously. And I think that I wanted to go through and kind of talk about some things that I have learned and share them with everybody. And of course, I had to bring on a friend today. So, as you're joining us, say what's up. But what I know without a shadow of a doubt is that there are so many ways that having a nonprofit arm of your business can be a really, really powerful thing. And so, in this week's episode, I'm going to have my friend Samara, and I will be breaking down some myths and sharing with you how to actually leverage a nonprofit. Now, there, I can admit that I believe some of the myths out there until I dove in and educated myself, got support with what a nonprofit actually can be and or um, structure and things that maybe I thought I knew, but I didn't really know. I was just listening to what the narrative is out there sometimes. And so it really was an educational piece for me to dive into this as we made a shift here in our business and decided to move things over for our arts education outreach program into a nonprofit versus a for profit entity. And so, if you're joining us, say hello. I always want to know who's with us when we come on Wednesdays. I know that we're kind of winding it down before our hiatus that is going to be happening over the holidays. So if you come back in on the replay, we want to know that as well. But if you stumbled upon this somehow, I'm Erin Bird, and I support dance studio owners and educators to really grow their businesses without the burnout, the overwhelm, or sacrificing your personal lives, because I truly believe that you can have the business and the empire of your dreams without having to sacrifice. And so, if you're joining us, say hello. We want to know who is with us this morning as you're rolling on in. And I am going to go ahead and, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Samara. Now, I'm going to let her, do a little intro as well. But let me do this. So I'm making sure I'm getting all the things working here. So Samara, actually, we met each other years ago, and she started out honestly as one of my clients. And then as I got to know her and work with her, I found out that she had so much knowledge in the nonprofit, I mean, across the board, but in this nonprofit area. And so after we worked with each other for a while, I decided that I really wanted her on our team for Dance Studio Empire because she was such an invaluable source of information for us as we launched our nonprofit and making the transition over, that I could not have her on our team. So I'm so grateful for you being here today. Thank you for showing up this morning. And I'm going to give you a moment just to kind of do a quick little intro of yourself for those who don't know you. And then we're going to dive into this conversation about how there is power in nonprofits and how they can be a powerful thing, and some of the myths that we need to kind of demystify today, because I think there's quite a few myths out there about nonprofits. And so that's kind of what our chat's going to be about today. But I'm going to turn it over to you real quick. We'll let you introduce yourself and then we'll get this party started.
Hi, everybody. My name is Samara Michelle Daise. I am a nonprofit leader. I am also a small business and nonprofit strategist. I focus on nonprofits, and I'm one of the coaches for Dance Studio Empire. And my work combines my two my favorite things. I don't know if it's two favorite things, but I'm an educator. I've taught my whole life, and um, dance teacher. I am have a master's degree in educational leadership, and I grew up in a nonprofit dance studio, which is was my first intro to the nonprofit world, and I love being part of Dance Studio Empire because it allows me to really educate and coach business owners on the two things that I love, which is dance and nonprofits. And so I like to do both work. And so today is very special to me because I know I get to talk about those things. And I know Aaron said we were going to talk about some myths, and it's a lot out there. So I just want, I love to talk about that because I have experience from starting my nonprofit, from being part of a nonprofit very early, and then from all of the clients that I've worked with, along with all the studio owners that I've worked with, just understanding, the inside of it and the real part of it, because a lot of times you learn about nonprofits and it's very buttoned up and it's very like, ooh, you can't do this and yes, you can do that. And it's just so much information that you need somebody to help you kind of navigate it that really understands the space. And so I'm
100%.
happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Aaron. And me and Aaron, we go way back. We actually met on Facebook in the
Okay,
Facebook group.
I
And I was
know.
like, she's like, oh my God, I could learn so much from her. And so that is how we connected. And then it's been, it's been years now. It's unbelievable how many. And then we worked back and forth and helped each other at this point.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it goes back to that, just a little note, and like, there's our businesses, whether you are a for profit, nonprofit, doesn't matter, are really built on relationships. And I know sometimes we get caught up in the day to day and all of the things, but relationships are the key to growth, to scaling, to elevating. And so, one of those things where I know sometimes I had someone the other day be like, oh my gosh, I know I need social media. One of my clients, Aaron, I know I need to be on it, whatever, but I don't really like it. I don't want to spend all my time on it. And we had a long conversation about that. But I said, at the end of the day, what is social media meant for? It's meant for relationships. And there's like, how many people have you met because of it? And we had a conversation. She's like, oh, yeah, I actually met some like key people that have like changed the trajectory of my business because I happened to meet them in a Facebook group, or I happened to meet them. I saw something they posted, a TikTok or a reel came across my thing, and then somehow I just reached. Like, there is power in relationships, and if you're invested in finding and looking at the platforms in that way, and like, how do I find and build relationships with people, um, it could be a really, really beautiful thing. So that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But today we're going to dive into this idea of nonprofits, and I want to talk about some myths first, and then we can dive into how you can leverage a nonprofit as part of your business model or in addition to. And so I wanted to just briefly touch on that. So I have to tell you that I'm just going to call myself out right now because I'm a transparent person. But, and my friends, let me know in the comments if you've ever thought about any of these myths, or if you've heard these myths, if they, you're like, oh, yeah, I heard that one, or oh my gosh, I thought XYZ. We want to know. Um, One of the big things that I always was like hesitant for even entertaining the idea of a nonprofit was that my baby, my life's work, could be taken away from me by a board. And well, right. And so I do want to talk about that real quick because it's a huge thing that you hear about. You hear these stories about founders getting, kicked out of their nonprofit. And so I would love for you to just like touch on that, because to me, honestly, that was probably my biggest hesitation when even starting to like discuss this as an option.
Hmm. So this is one of the big. I mean, this is one of the biggest myths, and I think it's one of the scariest. So I'm going to say a few things about it, and I'm trying not to take too much time on it. But so one of the things is that the idea that um people take over boards and overthrow founders within itself is very mythy, right? It's very mythical. You do hear these stories sometimes, but it's not it's not like it's not like our nonprofits. Like it's like nonprofits that have been around for years and years. There is some type of um, thing with the founder where they're either older or not engaged. The nonprofit has grown beyond them and they're still in power. And so the folks that are actually doing the work need to take over. Um, that is not what we're talking about when we're talking about our nonprofits, right? We
Right.
are boots on the ground, working in our businesses and very, our ideas, our stuff. And so in that case, then I go to point two is you have to ask yourself, who could take over your business? Like, how could your business run without you? Like,
Right.
it can't happen because you are the center, you are the leader, you are the idea person, you are the visionary, and people are behind you and your work. And so the idea that the people that you bring on would even know enough to take over is really one of those things where, and you talk about this a lot of times, like we're just getting in our own way. We're just coming up with something to not work on our business
Mhm.
because it just doesn't happen with boots on the ground nonprofits like we feel like it does. And if you hear any stories about it, read a few more lines of the story and find out like what's actually going on. And normally it's like some parent that won't let go of the nonprofit that should have given it to the kids 20 years ago and it's the kids taking over, or these people been working in it and on it for all this time and this person has been a rubber stamp. So it's not really a thing. And just to ease, our minds about it is that oftentimes when you are the founder, you are recruiting the very first board. You are the leader in their eyes. And people are taking cue from you. And so much so that you kind of like, you do. No, you guys make the decision. Like you do it. So it's very hard to, even for me to think about like my board trying, like they are to support my vision because they believe in what I believe in, and they believe that I am the visionary to bring it forward, and they are taking their marching orders, from me. And so and then my last part about it, which is, me and my personality, but um we are not like Uber, right? Even though our stuff is innovative, like dance studio owners, like we're not like Uber. We definitely are innovative in our own right. We have our way of doing things, but honestly, if somebody on our board wants to open their own dance thing, they don't have to overthrow ours. They just open one, right? It's not like we have this intellectual property that is like only we can do it. And so when you think of those things, um it just doesn't happen. And then my last point is that there are ways for us to protect ourselves from just the thought of I've made all these investments, I've spent all this money, I've done all these things, and then if I have to let this nonprofit be community ownership, how do I protect myself? And I don't know if you want me to get into any of those things now, but there are definitely ways and steps that us as owners and founders can protect ourselves so that we're not making those initial investments and then somebody can take it over. So
Yeah.
it's a
And that's
yeah.
something that we, you know, dive deeper into inside of our Empire Builders Club with our members who have nonprofits is, um, how do we safeguard? There are definitely things that you can put in place to mitigate your risk. I guess
Mhm.
is the way to put it. And so I want to move on because I do want to make sure, like I want to have this be a robust conversation. But
Yeah.
the other big myth that I hear, not that I believe, because y'all know I don't believe this, but this is something that as a society, interestingly enough, right, is that there's no money or nonprofit equals no money. Like I was at Starbucks the other day, picking up my drink, and I happened to be talking to like their lead shift person, whatever. She's very sweet. And so anyway, I was talking to her and know her because I go in there apparently too often. Um, but said something and we are talking about that I had a nonprofit and she said, "Isn't that really hard? Like, because there's like, how do you live? Because if you're nonprofit, like, isn't there no money?" And I said, my face went, huh? No, ma'am. we I'm able to come and visit you every day. But so there's this myth, Samara, that there is no money, and I'm saying this very, very loosely, in nonprofits. And what do you, I mean, I could share our stories, but I'm sure you hear it quite a
All
bit.
the time. All
And
the time.
what are your thoughts on that statement and sentiment?
Well, hogwash is my thought.
It's cocky. Yeah,
So so the I mean it is the biggest myth. Like it is the first myth, and part of it is because when things were like, at some point the government decided to name it nonprofit, and that made people feel like, there's no profit, which is kind of, makes sense, but that's not what it's meant, right? So the meaning of nonprofit is that your business was not created for profit. So your business mission is not that of, I am, the only purpose of this business is to make money, which there are some businesses, for-profit businesses, that is their purpose. Now, of course, they have a reason for existing, but
sure,
it's about money and profit and the bottom line, where nonprofits, their existence helps the community. There's money involved for sure, but our purpose is to help the community. So if we're talking about dance studios and um, the dance studio business, we fall under the category of arts. And we know that without the arts, our world will be kind of sucky. And so the government knows that too. And so all things in the arts are considered to be nonprofit, the same as like healthcare or um, helping feed our nation. Those things are all nonprofit. And so, because of that, we get some perks to exist. So, the same way that any other small business gets perks or less taxes or can get these contracts or get these things, that's the same thing for nonprofits and arts organizations. So, nonprofit means that you're going to get a tax distinction that allows you to not get taxed on your federal income taxes. And that is the part that um, people don't understand. So, nonprofit is a designation, it's a type of business. And so it does not mean no money. No business can exist without money. People have to get paid. And so I always use the examples of like the YMCA. It's a $1 billion business. Like the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club. These are large business. Hospitals are nonprofit. You know it's money flowing all up and through there. And the people that run them make a lot of money. So there is money available. They nonprofits don't expect you to not make money. They also don't expect that services have to be free. So that's another big old myth in the no money category, that it's like, oh, I have to give something away or it has to be free. That's it's just simply not the case. And it is definitely a myth because it's not true at all. And and often people are like, well, I know you can't make any money, or I know you can't. And so the only caveat is that a nonprofit can't make $50,000 in the year and the founder make 49.995.
Yes.
It has to make sense.
Yes.
But you guys in our businesses, as dance studio owners or dance programs, we can't make all the money. Money has to go into the business. So if you're running good business, you'll be fine running a good nonprofit. It's the same thing. It's just another business. It's just another designation. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I love that so much because I think that so many times, yeah, there's this idea. Okay, I have to tell you right now, y'all know, and I'm not getting into politics, you know this, but it's an election year, right? And so you have all of these different commercials that are coming on TV or whatever. And so right now here in California, there's this on the ballot, there's about nonprofits and CEOs and all that stuff. And it's like, I've just story time telling all our things, but there's a thing about, you know, make sure these CEOs of nonprofits aren't going on to lavish concerts and like all this stuff and whatever, whatever, whatever. Anyway, my daughter being funny, and she's like, Mom, are you one of those CEOs that they're talking about? I was like, oh, baby, we might be living a different life. If I was one of those. But no, we make sure we do things on the up and up. That being said, my friends, when you're thinking about nonprofits, um, and how does that work for you, right? There's many different ways that it can work for you. You can keep your for profit business and also have a nonprofit arm. That is allowed. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Oh, you went to Taylor's, I know, right? I'm going to tell her, I'm sorry, I went to Tay Tay 5 times without you. I went to all of them, right? All those concerts. Flew all over the world to do it. No, I do love me a concert, don't get me wrong, but not at our nonprofit's expense. Um, but like you can have both and they can run independently, but also in partnership, right? There are some rules again about that. Let's be clear. And so I always say, if you're thinking about a nonprofit, please, please, please get yourself educated about it. Don't go into it willy nilly, right? You have to keep abreast of what the laws are. They change things, like there are different guidelines and just because all the studios in my area do it this way does not mean that that is what the laws are. And one day the shoe's going to drop in your area and you don't want it to be on you. I'm going to just say that right now.
Well,
Okay.
I want to say, Erin,
Yes.
because we're talking about myths. I had a client, and she's a nonprofit, and like listening and not getting fully educated, and not, making sure you have someone in your circle that can ask or whatever that's knowledgeable, because she was like, well, I have to spend all the money for the year. So we have to go down to zero each year to qualify in our
Yeah.
nonprofit. And I was like, what? And
Excuse me.
I'm literally like, you cannot start the year on zero. It's like starting your business every other time. But this is something that's said where it's like you have to spend all the money. But what the truth is that all the money that you are doing has to go towards your exempt purpose. That's what they mean. But all the things that you do in your business goes towards your business. So that's not a thing. It sounds like a thing, but it's not a thing, because all of the money for the restaurant goes for the restaurant. All the money on the dance studio, like, it's not a thing in any small business that that money is going all these different places. So it doesn't mean that it's, I'm like, you go into a zero balance, you have to spend all the money. What are you saying? And I was like, maybe it's a mixture of like maybe some grant funding that they had to spend, but it's one of those. things that makes me know, and whether it's nonprofit or for profit or whatever route you choose, as a studio owner, you need to be knowledgeable about the business that you're running. And often we have started because we on the ground, we're a great dance teacher, and we started this thing and it's rolling. But at some point you have to like really get some help and some, not because you are the best at that thing, and you need to get people on your team that are the best at the thing that they do. And so it's just an important reminder that this is how these things happen. And it's not difficult when you have the information at
No,
all.
I mean, that's obviously, I will say Samara made it very easy for all intents and purposes for us to be able to roll out and make the transition into, having a nonprofit versus our for-profit. I think that, these decisions that we have to make, we need good professionals in our, like, I think I might refer y'all back. I did a live about, like the top 7 people you need on your team in your corner, like whether it's your lawyer, your attorney, your bookkeeper, your CPA, like all this sort of people. Um, but that was like, there's a lot of things to think about, right? And so for us, we first started with our conversation with our accountant. That was like the first place, and we were started to have that conversation. I'm like, okay, well, let me educate myself about what that could be, right? And so then I'm like, all right, started to do some research, talked to Samara, started seeing what would that look like. So it is, I always say, don't jump into business, no matter what kind of business, willy-nilly. We need to know what we're doing. And if you don't, that's okay. That's why you have us and like the Empire Builders Club and people out there to support you. Get the support that you need so you can make the best informed decisions as possible. But so what I want to say is that one of the other things that creates, for us, and I just want to give our a little bit of our story too. We all had that little thing, the pandemic that happened, and and I know, just the little thing, right? And prior to the pandemic, for years and years and years, for over a decade, we had our business, our for-profit business, and where we had our outreach program, and we were going to school sites, and we were doing all the things. I mean, essentially, for all intents and purposes, the same thing that we're doing now as a nonprofit, right? And but because of mandates, as a for profit, we were not allowed in the schools during the pandemic. But as a nonprofit, were because of our designation, which again we can have a whole nother conversation about. But nonetheless, to me, that was the catalyst, I will say, for really taking action. Number one, and making sure that we could roll this out. I did keep our for profit. It's still there. It hasn't gone away anywhere, right? But it's still there. But we shifted to this nonprofit model because it made sense, because there was power in the nonprofit, in the designation, with our state, with the mandates, and our school systems. So it really made sense. And a lot of times when I have clients come to me and they're like, I really want to get into like public schools. And I cannot break through. I cannot break through. I have tried all the things, but they won't even like talk to me. And I tell them, get yourself a nonprofit. There's a different perception.
There are benefits beyond the tax breaks,
Oh,
right?
1000%.
Right. There are benefits beyond the tax breaks. And because of the what we said before about the purpose,
Mhm.
and even public perception is a thing. Um and so the whole structure of a nonprofit says to someone that you are here for the kids, you
Mhm.
are you are here to stay. You didn't just get this designation on a whim.
Mhm.
It says that you are an organization. And so That is different from Susie's dance center coming to teach classes after school. And so, not that Susie's is not great,
Right.
but they the perception is that Susie's dance center is only out for Susie.
Right.
And that there is, and I'm just using that as an example, but even any for profit, because they want people to come in that are for the kids. And but we think that nonprofit means now we got to go to the school for free, and that's not true. They got a whole budget. They got a whole budget. I was at Clayton County School District last week here in Atlanta, and they were like, we spend $1 billion on vendors a year. And so people coming into the school and doing things. And I'm not saying they spend $1 billion on dance at all.
Right. But there's
I'm,
a piece of the pie.
I'm not saying that,
There's a
but
piece
I
of the
don't need
pie.
$1 billion. A couple thousand works for me. So so I it is important.
Well, we lost her for a second. Hopefully, she'll dive back in and I will finish her thought. It is important to know that there is power in perception. And so, what I can tell you from personal experience is that with the nonprofits, there's just different revenue streams. There's just different revenue streams. So we have contracts with our schools, with our school districts, and we, so that's one revenue stream for us. That's one revenue stream for us. And then we have our cash pay parents and sites where the parents are paying just like inside your studio, a traditional model. You can still charge people your normal rates. You can still charge people your normal rates. You do not have to discount. And so we have that revenue stream coming in. Yes, we have revenues coming in from donations and from charitable partners and from like there's lots of different ways that nonprofits uh, have money, right? And going back to that point, like to be a sustainable business, I don't care, for profit, nonprofit, whatever, you have to have a savings account. You have to, like, you need to set things aside. Um, I can tell you that as a nonprofit, I am able to have more fringe benefits for my team than I was as a for profit. So like we're investing in their retirement accounts. We are making sure that they have, 40 hours of PTO. Like there are so many advantages and to having a nonprofit. It's just having the right mindset about what a nonprofit is. I truly, truly believe that is like 90% of the key, right, to being successful is like having the right mindset. Don't fall victim to the idea that there's no money in nonprofits and that you can't you can't have a savings account and have you know uh, your whole gen op funds for the next year saved up in there. No, you can do all of those things, um, but it's just a matter of shifting your mindset about it and getting support. So sorry, I think I finished your thought
You
for you.
did.
Okay, good.
Lovely job, Aaron Bird.
Thank you. Thank you.
I did want to say I also think sometimes the scary thing for people in nonprofit is the IRS and all the things, and that someone is going to come and say you're not doing this right and you're not doing this. And I said it a little bit earlier, but I just want to pause and kind of reiterate it, that there are very few rules that are different from
Mhm,
regular businesses as a nonprofit.
mhm.
I think that people make them scary because it benefits them, right?
Right.
Take this course, do this thing, learn about this stuff, nonprofit, legal. Like, but it really, it, I've been in nonprofit for years, and it's only a couple of things that are different from a for profit business. And they're not even big things. They're not even like, whoa. So I say I say that and mention that because your nonprofit is your business just like everything else. You do not have to do all the things at once. You can have a nonprofit for years and never write a grant. You can have a nonprofit for years and never run a fundraiser. You know, if you are able to sustain through program fees and opportunities, you don't have to do any of those things, but you can still get the perks and benefits. So it's important to understand that it is still very much a small business,
Mhm.
and you have those added benefits and caveats. I always call it a small business with a cherry on top because I'm like, it's just like all these good perks and things that happen. And I really say that it's different for different industries, but when we're talking about dance and the arts, like it really is beneficial to us. There's lots of arts funding. There's arts funding in every community every year, because the same way they fund the museum, they will fund our dance programs because they're required. They need to have these things in the community to make it thrive.
Mhm.
And so it is important to kind of shift that mindset and understand that this is just another decision as a business owner, not like an entire hoop to hoop. Right? It's gonna help.
No, 100%. And uh, I'm always, I'm pretty transparent. I think that it's important when it comes to sharing with you guys, A, what's possible, B, challenges that we see, because there's challenges in any business. There's challenges, you know, um, whether you're over here and you're dealing with a landlord who wants to sell your building, or you're over here and you're trying to navigate through public school education and administration, and how does that work? There's always going to be challenges, and so pick your heart. Pick your heart. um, i'm I'm the fan of, I'm either learning or I'm dying, right? And so I'm willing I'm willing to learn and grow. And going back to that, when you decide what your mission is for your nonprofit, if you decide that you want to have one, it could be, you get to decide the scale, I guess is my point. With anything, with any business, you get to decide. What I want for our nonprofit could be very, very different from what Samara wants, or what her goals are, or the organization's goals are. When it comes to revenue, I know that I need a healthy mix in our organization or in our business to be sustainable. So what that means is I cannot, if you think of like a three-legged stool, right? And each leg, you got grants and you got regular tuition and revenue, and then you got donors. If I only have one leg of a three-legged stool, I probably am going to fall over at some point, right? So this is where it is important in any business to say, where is our revenue coming from? How are we generating our revenue? And so yes, we have been very, very, I'm not going to say, yes, I'm going to say lucky. We have been lucky. We're grateful. There was lots of work that went into it, but we've received some amazing grant funds, which, y'all, I mean, has been amazing, right? But it's not our only leg of the stool. So, like, this year so far, this season, which is crazy because we're only in October, we've already received over $300,000 in grant funding. We're not done yet, but it's only one leg of our stool, right? And now we have our contracts that we have with our school systems, which is separate, right? That's another leg. And then we've got our other leg of that, is our um, charitable partners. So we have a partnership with a haunted trail maze that's coming up in for Halloween, and we're their charitable partners. So, it's good for them, it's good for us. The more people who come and attend their event, the bigger the donation for us to be sustainable. My point to that is that you get to decide. Do you want to have, a nonprofit that generates $100,000 in revenue and you could do with that? Or do you want $1 million nonprofit? Or do you want to, like, what do you want and why do you want it? And so, you know, I know we will easily surpass the $1 million mark in revenue this year for our nonprofit. Now, I'm not getting $1 million, y'all. Let's be clear. I am not getting $1 million from this.
Well, Aaron, I mean, again, like any business,
Mm-hmm.
you get $300,000 in grant funds. That you still got to do the program. You still have to have a program. So it is just like, that amazing year that you have at your dance studio. You have 200 kids, you have revenue, you have 200 kids. That means you need more teachers than when you had 20 kids. So it is all business. It is all scaling. But like Aaron said, you get to pick your heart, you get to pick your options, you get to choose how you can bring in funds and how it works. And for dance studios, I always recommend having some type of nonprofit, something as part of your business, because arts is naturally nonprofit. And we do, if you're a for-profit business, you do all the nonprofit things anyway, because you fundraise for those costumes, you do those community events,
Yes.
you have a community partnership, you're doing all the things already, which is why I'm such a cheerleader for the arts to be nonprofit, so that we can get all the things that we're already doing. It's not even a shift, because you already part of the parade. You trying to sell candy. Like, it's
Right.
just bananas. And
Right.
so it's helpful to have those benefits back you up, because we know as studio owners, sometimes those budgets get thin. Sometimes, once we've paid our teachers, and we pay ourselves the salary that is not the salary that we want, but the salary that we can live with,
Right.
then there's nothing left. And so some of this stuff Aaron is talking about, as far as grants or even perks or partnerships, can be the extra thing on top that helps you get to your proper salary, helps you get your teachers the extra training that they need, helps you deal with the employment laws from your state, and now you can't have independent contractors and all those things. So it's a business decision, and it's like, how can this help me with what I'm already doing? And so, yeah.
I agree with you. Thank you so much. Okay, my friends. So we dive deep into nonprofits inside of our Empire Builders Club as well. So if you are wanting additional support with your business, if you're wanting to grow, scale, systemize, if you're looking for simplicity, y'all, we are of the vein of work smarter, not harder. Uh, that's our approach. And so, if you want more support inside of your business, drop the word Empire below and we'll reach out to you and get you some details about that program. It is a small group, lots of attention, lots of touch points. We meet every Wednesday. Actually, we're going to get ready to go into our group coaching call for this week, where we are doing our monthly planning session for November. So, we're going to be planning right now to get all of our details in place. So, November is smooth. We are proactive, not reactive.
Reactive.
Right. And there's like we're rounding that corner right now where it's like, oh, the holidays and all the things are literally just around the corner. And so we want to make sure that everyone who is inside of our Empire Builders Club, who is a member, are feeling proactive, because that makes stress less, anxiety less. Like having a plan equals creating success inside your business. So, if you want more information about that, or if you come back in on the replay, drop the word Empire below, and myself, Samara, Paula, Genevieve, somebody will reach out to you and chat with you more about our Empire Builders Club. I want to say thank you, Samara, for coming on this morning and having this chat about myths and nonprofits and how you can leverage them and utilize them and have them in your back pocket, really, if and when you decide that you need to shift. Um, I could tell you, I have a client right now who on our call yesterday, I was like, hey, that nonprofit you have, that is going to be the key, because based upon what's happening in your state right now, you're already set up to make the shift quickly. And so, my friends, it's one of those things that you can even have in your back pocket when needed. So, Samara, thank you so much for joining me here. I'm going to leave y'all there, and I hope that you guys have a fantastic week. Next week, I have another guest coming on. I'm so excited. And so, you'll want to be here next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, for another episode of the Aaron Bird Live Show, where we talk all things strategy, mindset, tips, tricks, and hopefully a little bit of fun and joy in the mornings for you. So I'm going to leave you there. Have a fantastic